Bundy's Garage, Bundy here. Hey, today we're working on a 2009 Toyota Camry with a 2.4 liter. We're going to be doing the spark plugs. Very easy to do. They're underneath this cover. Two 10mm bolts hold this on, and then probably four 10mm bolts hold the coil packs on. I've never done the spark plugs on this vehicle, but let's take a look-see. Let's figure this thing out. Work the problem. When you do the spark plugs, always make sure, always make sure that the engine is cold when you do this. Don't do this on a hot engine.
Now, why is that?
You run the risk of stripping out the threads inside the engine block if it's a hot engine. So you have four 10mm bolts that hold the coil pack on. Somebody's been in here before.
Yeah, they did. They redid the whole engine. Toyota. But they didn't change the spark plugs.
Well, all these tabs that should be here are broken.
Except really?
Yeah.
Oh, they are, huh?
See? These shouldn't be broken like that. They siliconed it. They siliconed it in place, see?
Yeah, they sure did.
They put some glue in there. This was at the dealership?
Yeah.
So the Toyota dealership in Riverside, California, put silicone in here to try to cover up their mistake.
I gotta add some more silicone on there, huh? Make sure it's glued back. They stay in place.
How do you break every single tab? Maybe one? Take out the four 10mm bolts. If you pull these out and there's oil inside of here, that means that there's been a failure on the valve cover gasket. So if you see oil on your coil packs, go in there and change the valve cover gasket, because bad things can happen when your coil packs are sitting in oil. I'll put some links in the description below about that. But if oil starts cooking your coil pack, you're going to lose your coil pack and all kinds of bad stuff happens. You need a 5/8 spark plug socket to get these out. Drop it down in there. Make sure it gets on. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. I'll go through and break all these loose and then bring them all out. My spark plug socket doesn't get stuck down there. Nah, that plug looks awesome, dude. So has that nice white right there. It's been burning real nice. Denso. You sure they never changed?
They probably did when they did the engine about 40,000 miles ago. So
we could leave them in if you want.
Yeah.
Well, the owner has decided to not change them out, but that's how you do it. It's not hard at all. When I reinstall this, I'm going to put a little bit of anti-seize on here. Go ahead and put it back down. I'm going to show you a trick how to get this down here without risking damage to the electrode right here. Yeah, just make sure you use a quality plug, either Denso or NGK, when you do this job. So you just go through, pull all four spark plugs out, bring in new spark plugs. They're pre-gapped, so you don't need to gap these at all. And the cool thing about NGK boxes is that the way the picture shows, that's the way that spark plug sits inside the box. Cool little tip if you're ever on Jeopardy. I know guys are going to say, oh, you don't need to put anti-seize on here. NGK and Denso don't recommend it. Yeah, well, have you ever had one stuck into a head and you had to pop the head off? I'd rather do this in the beginning and have to suffer the fate of pulling a head on a car off. Okay, so the way I like to get these in, I have a little hose right here, about 6 inches long. I'll go ahead, I'll stick the porcelain part of the spark plug into the hose. Then I'll feed the hose down into the spark plug hole after it's been coated with anti-seize. You can actually feel it when it starts to grab. Yep, it's already grabbed. And that way you don't run the risk of dropping guys drop these things down here, the spark plugs down in the holes, and you can damage the electrode or any part of the spark plug, which is pretty stupid. Never run these down with power tools. Always use this stuff by hand. Always do this by hand. And my spark plug socket wants to get stuck down there. And had to pull it up with a pair of pliers. Okay, just snug this up. Once you feel it bottom out, just a smidgen more. There you go. You do not want to over tighten your spark plug. So one thing I like to do on the coil packs before I put them back in, so I'll go ahead and get some dielectric grease, put it right inside the tip right here. That way it keeps moisture out and gives you a little bit better electrical connection when you when it's firing on the spark plug. So if you get in your car and you have a misfire after you do this job, come back out here and make sure all these plugs are connected. Because I've seen guys chase misfires after doing this, and all they forgot to do, or it wasn't plugged in all the way, is the connector into the coil pack. All right, just run these down, snug them up.
Nice.
The reason the owner opted out is because the engine was replaced about 40,000 miles ago.
Well, it was remanned totally because of a recall.
Yeah, the block was leaking, right?
Yeah, the cylinder heads, well, the cylinders needed new rings according to this engine and the recall. So they redid the cylinder heads, new rings, every gaskets and spark plug, like a whole new, you know, but.
What they did at the Toyota dealership is they just put some RTV on the corners here where the connectors connect to the coil packs. If it was my car, I'd actually go and I would change these connectors out, but it's not my car. So if you want, I think, a better solution than using RTV, if that's the way you're gonna go, is to use silicone. Just get some clear silicone, put a little dab right here where it connects. But fire it up, I wanna make sure there's no misfires. If you guys wanna see more videos on how to save money by doing it yourself, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And like always, I'll keep them rolling for you. Anything flashing on the dash? Doesn't sound like it. All right, shut it off. All right, guys, there we go. We're good to go. So that's how you change out the spark plugs on a 2009 2.4 liter.